Hello and welcome to our big kayak adventure that we have today in Point Lobos in California. But before we get started, I'm going to put on my junior park ranger hat to let you know of some things that are going to be happening. One, you can send us all your questions in the chat. So comment in there, tell us where you're from, and the Point Lobos State Natural Reserve will respond to those questions. Second, during the show, teachers, parents, and everyone watching, have your cameras ready because we have a chance to take a selfie with our very special guest. All right, I think it's about to get started. And, safety first. So before we splash on in to the Point Lobos waters here to introduce our special guest, we're going to get all buckled up. But the countdown starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to today's Flip event. My name is George Malukaran and I am on Team Flip, your host for today, and I have a question for you. Who's ready for today's adventure? And raise your hand if you are. I know Monica from Georgia tweeted earlier saying that she's going to be tuning in. How's it going, Monica? Mr. Edwards, grade 5 class from Fort Macleod, Alberta, Canada. Thank you. Hello, Kamal from Egypt. Mrs. Cope's class. Miss Steiber's 4th and 6th grade class from La Mirada, California. Oh my gosh. To that, I think that those 2-year-olds in the living room. Charlie, we have you and your grandparents watching from Tacoma, Washington. So happy you're here. And again, it's time to introduce our special guest, Alec, who is a park interpreter in Point Lobos Natural Reserve. He's going to give us a tour today of the Point Lobos waters. Alec, how's it going?
Morning, George. It's going super well. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm impressed. You have the vest on, you're kayaking. I feel like all I'm doing is standing here. Do you mind just telling us where exactly you are also, and maybe turning the camera around just to give us that full environment 360 view?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm here at Point Lobos State Natural Reserve, everyone. It's on the west coast of the United States, on the central coast of California. So as we're zooming in here, it's a little bit south of Monterey Bay, renowned for its Monterey Bay Aquarium and diversity of ocean life and just beauty in general. And so Point Lobos is all this green area that we see here. It's a big peninsula that sticks out into the ocean. Francis McComas, a famous painter, once called Point Lobos the greatest meeting of land and sea in the world. And I have to agree with Francis. So we are here at Whalers Cove, which is in the northeast section of Point Lobos. It's a mostly protected cove where a diversity of wildlife lives and where we get to do our program today. So I'll turn my camera around and we'll be able to see kind of what I'm looking at here. And this is my view here on Whalers Cove. As you can see, it's a foggy yet bright morning. It's warming up a little bit, probably getting up to 60 degrees. You can see some things floating in the ocean there and some trees in the distance. And where my camera is pointed now, that's Carmel Bay. And out in that bay, the ocean sinks to a very, very deep level. It's a canyon, an underwater canyon, similar to canyons such as Bryce Canyon, Zion Canyon, the Grand Canyon out in the southwest of the United States. This is an underwater canyon, and it gets super deep, leading to the greater Monterey Bay Canyon. And in that canyon, it can go up to 11,000 feet, or about twice the depth of the Grand Canyon. So we're going to be paddling around here today, and I'm so excited to show you all this place. All right, so in today's program, everyone, we're going to be doing a short paddle, and then we are going to be doing some nature observation activities. All right, we're going to be noticing things, and the goal today is for you to get outside when you're done with this program and experience the nature around you, whether that's your local city park or your backyard, or even the potted plant sitting on your balcony. I want you to be able to pay attention, observe, notice, and just be curious. There's a famous detective named Sherlock Holmes. Have you heard of him? Yeah, Sherlock Holmes, he's quite famous. He's from England, and he's a fictional character, but he has a great quote. And he says, "I see no more than you do, but I've trained myself to notice what I see. I see no more than you do, but I've trained myself to notice what I see. So I want you to be able to notice the things that you are seeing in the world. It just creates a better you. I feel like I'm 10% happier when I'm out there in the world just noticing things. So that's also one of my goals, to make you 10% happier. So this place, again, is Point Lobos State Natural Reserve. It is a California state park. It's the biggest state park system in the United States. And this place is extra special because it's a reserve, or a place that we set off aside for the animals to succeed, to live. So this is also a park for the people. About 1 million people come here per year. Have you been to Point Lobos before? I'm sure many of you haven't. We have some people from all over the world. I heard even as far as Egypt. That's so cool. So my goal also is to be able to convince you to come here to Point Lobos. All right, so first things first, we're going to do our short paddle. So I just want you to notice the things in the water, above the water, and try to just calibrate yourself. Try to notice all the different things that you are seeing out here. So we're going to do about a couple minutes of this paddle, and yeah, get comfortable and just try to notice as much as you can. Here we go. We're going to paddle out to that rock that's straight, and we'll turn around. As you can see, it's a little bit windy today. You might be able to hear it in my microphone. And you might be able to see the ripples on the water. What kind of things are you noticing in the water? Oh, we got a big gust. Send me those paddling energies so I can get ahead here. Throughout the United States right now, it is particularly hot. We're entering a heat wave. Not so in the Monterey area. It's definitely your eyes peeled. Okay, we'll turn around here. Sometimes the wind influences the signal strength. So hopefully the wind dies down a little bit. We get some better signal. So although it's foggy, what kind of things have you noticed? Not only on the ocean, but on the land as well. What kind of environment is this? Is it forested? Is it deserty? What do you notice? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed our little paddle, and we'll continue to paddle around, but just wanted to show you a little bit of where we're at. So some things I noticed some trees up there, and I noticed some rocks and some stuff floating in the ocean here. And we'll talk more about that stuff floating in the ocean. It also looks like some grass and some small bushes up there, as well as some rocks lining the edge. And there's our parking lot. So we got some cars and all the people. And I also noticed some birds flying just ahead of us there. So there are some animals that live above and in the water. Okay, so first things first, I do want to talk about some of the stuff that's floating in the water. All right, and you may have guessed what it is, but this stuff floating in the water is actually an underwater forest. That's right, an underwater forest. And you can see from this image here that just like forests exist on land, forest also exists in the ocean as well. And so this is our giant kelp forest. And in the giant kelp forest, each strand of kelp, it can grow up to 1.5 feet per day, or half a meter, and up to 200 feet tall. Okay, up to 200 feet tall, or 1.5 feet a day. That's so fast, and it gets super big. So that's our giant kelp forest. All right. And I want to show you something I found in the giant kelp forest. I think you might be interested in. One of them is this creature right here. Super shiny shell. Or the creature that rather used to live in this shell. Does anyone know what this is? Got this. The abalone actually feeds on our giant kelp. So this is something that you'd find in the kelp forest. All right, so that's our abalone. I also want to show you something else I found at the bottom. Okay, and it's this object. And this object is pretty strange, I'm sure. But I want you all to take about 30 seconds and try to point out all the things that you notice about it. And that can be with the person next to you, if you're with someone, or if you're by yourself, you can also just use a pencil and a piece of paper. And just start listing all the things that you notice. It could be the size, the shape, the color, texture, all the things that you notice about it. All right, 30 seconds begins now. What do you notice about this object? Is it all the same color? Is it the same shape the whole way around? Is it symmetrical or the same shape all the way around? What's the texture feel like, do you think? Crunchy, soft? Does it have all the same size strands? All right, nice job. A few things that I noticed, the different colors. So we have sort of some reds up here, and then it gets darker down at the bottom. And then on the other side, the colors kind of change to a white and a brown. And it gets kind of bigger down here in terms of the size of the strands. All right. So good job noticing things. And for part 2 of this, I am wondering, what do you wonder about this object? What questions do you have about this object? Now, it could be, for example, where did this object come from? Now, I kind of gave you a hint when I said that it came from the bottom of the ocean. But where exactly do you think? All right, was it part of something else that was living? All right, we'll take another 30 seconds. I do have to paddle out a little bit because the wind is pushing me towards shore. But take 30 seconds and think about where you think that object came from and what other questions you might have about the object. Wonder about it. Paddle out. What other things do you wonder about the object? Okay. Okay. So some other questions you might have had were, is this thing living or was it living? Was something living inside of it, like another animal? Okay, was it part of something bigger or is this as big as it gets? All great questions. All right. And you've been very patient, so I will tell you what it is. It is actually related. I'm going to pull some up on board to our giant kelp here. I just pulled that onto my boat. It's still firmly attached to the bottom of the ocean. But some of you might be wondering how this thing gets attached to the bottom of the ocean. And so we can see from our diagram here, all right, what is holding it down to the bottom? Yeah, that would be our holdfast. So that object that we are just looking at and asking questions about and making observations of, that is our holdfast. And that's kind of like the root system on a tree, except unlike the roots, it doesn't supply nutrients. Its one goal is to hold it down. That's why it's called the holdfast. All right, so that's kind of a cool object that doesn't get a lot of credit in the giant kelp forest, but this is responsible for keeping the giant kelp firmly glued to the bottom. Now, there are some other animals that live here in the kelp forest, of course. A few mammals. All right, and one of those mammals is something that you may have seen before. They are sometimes seen together on rocks, basking in the sun. And that is this animal right here. Have you seen this creature before? Yeah. So this creature is called our harbor seal. And the harbor seal, you might be wondering, how does it survive in the ocean? All right, so I should let you know the water here is quite cold. Year round, it's about 50 to 55 degrees. So how does it survive in the cold ocean? What do you think? Does it have fur? Doesn't look really too furry, huh? Yeah, it has blubber. You're right. All that fat that's built up, that keeps it insulated and allows it to be in the water all day long. Of course, in the daytime, they like to bask in the sun to warm up, but they are in the water all day long. And actually, you can find them hunting at night. And what do we call animals that are active at night? Right? Starts with an N. Yeah, we call those animals nocturnal. Nocturnal. So these nocturnal blubbery creatures eat fish, jellyfish, and squid, and they like to bask in the sun during the daytime to warm up. Now, there is another famous mammal, arguably even more famous, that is here at Point Lobos. And it's a furry animal. You've probably seen it before. And that is starts with an O. What could it be? An animal that starts with an O, it's furry. It lives here. It's also a mammal. And we'll see if I can get you a picture here. Yeah. What is this animal, friends? Yeah, it's our sea otter. That's another animal that lives out here in the ocean, our sea otter. It lives here year round, like the harbor seal. But how do you think this animal stays warm, friends? Yeah, exactly. It uses its fur. And the sea otter has some of the best fur in the world. For every square inch, it has about 1 million hairs. So compare that to us on the human head, we have about 10,000 hairs. But the sea otter has 1 million hairs that keep it warm. And the sea otter is also smart. It uses tools. Just like you use a pencil to write, like you're doing right now, or just like I have my phone here to record myself, or my paddle to get me through the water. The sea otter uses a tool, and it's a pretty simple tool, but it uses a rock to bash open shells so that it can eat, and it keeps the rock in a little pocket in its fur all the time. And it pulls it out when it's ready to eat. It's like its spoon or fork. So the sea otter is a very intelligent creature. So those are a few of the animals that live here at Point Lobos. And friends, the sea otter is a very important creature. You see, a long time ago, they disappeared. They were hunted for that thick fur. And when they were hunted and they weren't really here anymore, the ecosystem or the habitat started to collapse. But when the sea otter came back, the ecosystem and habitat was restored. And when it was restored, all was good. And that's where we're at today. The sea otter is back and things are a lot better. And that's why we call our sea otter a keystone species. And you can see that at the top. That stone at the top that holds an arch together is called the keystone because it holds the rest of the arch together. You take out the keystone, the arch falls. We put the keystone back and the arch is strong. That's why we call our sea otter the keystone species, arguably the most important animal here at Point Lobos. All right, now for our final activity, friends, we're going to take a minute or two to do a nature journaling activity. And a nature journaling activity is pretty simple. With that piece of paper and pencil and something to draw or color with, you're going to be trying to draw the frame that I put up here. So I'm going to turn my camera around. And I want you to try to draw all the features, all 4 corners of the frame that I put for you. And this is an activity that you can do anywhere. You can do it, like I said, in your local city park or in your backyard or just in a potted plant on your balcony. It's something to engage in nature. You can even do it in urban environments too. And it really just helps you capture everything around you, be in the moment. So try to see if you can capture everything here. We'll take about a minute to draw this nature scene. There is a living creature in this nature scene. See if you can spot it. And I'll try to hold on to the kelp here so we don't drift away too much. It's actually a trick the sea otters use to not drift away. They'll wrap themselves up in kelp so they don't float away. Take about 30 more seconds to draw our nature scene, friends. The wind is pushing me. Do you see that living thing on top of our rock here? Okay. See if we can see that living thing up there. It's a bird. And that is our great blue heron up there. Great blue heron. It's kind of hard to see because it's really foggy today. Kind of unclear, but our great blue heron. Sorry about that. Lives there. And it's just hanging out. All right. I'm going to paddle out because I'm getting pushed into the rocks again. So again, friends, our nature drilling activity. Oh, and you can see it flying right now. Maybe. Might be a bit of a lag. So nature journaling is something that I encourage everyone to do. And like I said, I can do it in an urban environment. You can do it in nature, of course. It's just something to get yourself in the moment and try to capture all the things around you. All right, friends. So thanks so much for joining me. And I'm going to go back to George. George, are you still there?
I am, and I gotta say, Alec, I am having a blast. Like, we get to see a herring. I feel like I'm right there with you in Point Lobos. I learned about there's 1 million hairs on an otter, and then also the holdfast. That's the real MVP of that whole thing, holding it all together. Like, I'm learning so much. So appreciate the time that you're taking us on this immersive journey. But yeah, just really, really great stuff, and especially the last part about it's really helped with just taking the time to really immerse yourself in that experience. Painting it down, just really being one with all of it, no matter where you are. Like you said, whether you're in an urban setting, rural or on the water, just love it, Alex. So thank you so much.
Thanks, George. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I know there's a ton of engagement happening in the chat, so I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions for Alec, make sure to drop it in the chat because we'll be doing a little Q&A later. But for now, it's about the time to take that selfie. So everyone out there, get your cameras ready, gather in front of the screens, or if you're at classroom, at home, in that living room, looking at you, Charlie, or wherever you're watching from. We'll give you a few seconds to set up. So Alec, you and I are going to try and stay dry while people get to the front of the class, getting their camera ready. But let's get warmed up.
Sounds good.
All right, I think it's time. Alec, will you do us the honors and count us down for the selfie?
All right, everyone. This is our abalone shell. We're going to say abalone on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Abalone!
I love it. Thank you so much, Alec, and I hope everyone out there is having a great time and learning a lot. We'd love to see those selfies. So if you post them to social, make sure to tag Microsoft Flip and Ports Program so we can see it. And thank you again, Alec. That was a ton of fun.
Thank you, George. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. And now I want to say thank you again to everyone that's engaging in the chat. Mr. Edwards' class, Mrs. Hurd's class, Mr. Scolino's, Miss Lucas, ISA online class, and so many others. I just love us all happening in the chat and sparking that engagement. But now we're going to answer some of your questions. Alec, are you ready?
Go for it.
All right. Miss Sansbury's class is asking, what do sea otters do when they're not eating?
Sea otters are kind of like us. They like to relax. So even though they have to eat 25% of their body weight every day, that's a lot of food. So if you weigh 100 pounds, then you might have to eat 25 pounds of food every day. They like to chill. So they'll wrap themselves up in some kelp, take a nap. They'll play with their kids or their brothers and sisters or their friends and just swim around. And they just kind of like to sleep yeah, just hang out.
I love it. I feel like we live a little similar life to otters, like having a kelp blanket. That sounds like a nap time. I love it. And playing outside. That's awesome.
It's a very enviable lifestyle. Eating and sleeping is great.
Goku is asking, is the water hot or cold? That's a good question, Goku.
Great question. The water here, I would say, is colder than a lot of places. It's about 50 or 55 degrees year round. You definitely want a wetsuit, a neoprene wetsuit, if you're going to be in the water longer than 5 or 10 minutes, because you'll start to shiver and get cold.
Love it. All right, and let's ask a question about you. You said you're a park interpreter. What exactly does that mean? Do you talk to trees? You're like a forest whisperer? Like, give us a quick rundown of a park interpreter and what you do day to day.
Yeah, so an interpreter is like a park ranger who does education. So I do a lot of virtual programs. I do in-person programs. I run a summer camp here at Point Lobos. My job is to interpret the natural and cultural resources to the people. So just tell people stories about the way the animals and the plants live here, the peoples who have lived here. And there's a very deep cultural history here, starting from the natives who have been in this area for over 10,000 years, still are, to the Spanish and the Portuguese, the Chinese, the Japanese, Americans, Mexicans. So it's very deep stories that go on at this park. So my job is to tell stories through social media and programs and to kids, to adults, to the public, private groups. Yeah, it's a great job, and I highly encourage people to look into it.
Yeah, well, you are a fantastic storyteller, and I know this storytelling experience for all of us today has been phenomenal. So thank you so much, and really interesting to learn more about park interpreters and like what you all do. All right, have you ever seen a shark? Gotta ask.
Yes, I have seen a shark, but not here. I saw one snorkeling in Hawaii. I know they are here at Point Lobos and around these waters. So they're a key part of this ecosystem. We like having sharks here. They are not after humans. I know that is sometimes a misconception. But the sharks keep the ecosystem in check, which means they keep prey levels down and they create a healthy ecosystem. Just like our otter is important, keeping the ecosystem in check, so are the sharks. I have not seen a shark here yet.
I love it. It's all about the balance, right? We all are feeding into that balance, and we all have our role to play. So I love it.
Exactly.
Well, Alec, we are wrapping up today, but I want to ask, as we wrap up, any final thoughts you'd like to share with us and the audience?
Yes, be curious. Go outside and explore the natural world around you.
Love it. Be curious. You heard it here. Thank you again, Alec, for your time, for inspiring us, and how you are the most sensational multitasker I've ever seen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George, and thanks everyone out there. Have a good day.
All right, that was amazing. And the learning and inspiration is never over. So head over to aka.ms/CA State Parks to find today's topic so you and your learners can reflect on all that we learned today in our flip event. And even though we're wrapping up for today, we have flip events every week. So you can also head over to aka.ms/flip events to find an adventure that sparks your curiosity. And that's it for today. I'm your host, George Malukrin, and on behalf of Flip, Point Lobos Natural Reserve, and our amazing guest, Alec, thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you next time.